Hello, and welcome everyone. We're excited to have you with us today for this webinar, Goal Negotiation, the Secret to High-Performing Teams. My name is Jerusalem, and I'll be your host for this session. Actio is the sponsor of this webinar. Actio is a software company dedicated to helping organizations to transform their management practice. It offers an integrated management platform that ensures alignment across performance, risk, incentives, and so on to drive meaningful results. Today's session will last about an hour. And if you would like to receive a certificate of participation, we've got you covered. We'll be sending you a link at the end. So fill in your information and we'll be sending you the certificate. And if you're interested in having one-on-one chats with our CEO to get a deep dive into how the goal negotiation works in your company, we'll share a link for that too. So please fill in your information. Now, we really want this to be interactive. So if you have any questions, feel free to send them in the chat at any time. You can also post via Slido, which we'll be keeping an eye on. And don't hold back. Feel free to react, comment, or share your thoughts as we go. This is meant to be a conversation, so we'd like to hear from you as well. So for today, we're joined by our panelists, Guilherme, Gustavo, and Piero. Guilherme is the founder and CEO of Actio. He has over 2 decades of consulting experience across major national and multinational organizations. Guilherme is a recognized leader in building and systemizing management models. Gustavo Russo is a product manager at Actio. He leads our solution, tune, score, grid, and project office. He's passionate about innovation that supports management practice. Piero is an engagement consultant at Falconi. He has 15 years of experience in consulting and leadership advisory in a wide range of industries. He has hands-on experience, includes designing and deploying structured performance system that connects individual efforts to organization strategy. I'll hand it over to Guilherme, who will be facilitating the main part of the session, deep diving into the concept of goal negotiation. I'll be back toward the end to show you how the technology can support and scale this process with a live demo of our software, so you could see how the goal negotiation work in action. Over to you, Guilherme.
Thanks, Jerusalem. Welcome all to our webinar, and thank you again, Piero and Gustavo, for being here and sharing a bit of your experience with us. Well, I think we can start off going for the big question, right? And when we see the practice of goal negotiation in the market, we see that it's employed in a variety of industries, a variety of sizes of companies, and very different cultures, but all of them have to translate strategy into actual goals for each manager, each department, right? And this can be very different from company to company, but some of the challenges are consistent, right? So, Piero, I'd like to ask you first, what are these common challenges that companies face in the process of negotiating their goals?
Okay, first of all, Guilherme, thanks for the inviting. It's my pleasure to be here with you guys today. So about your question. So when we're talking about goals negotiation, I think it's important to understand that the goal negotiation is just one piece or just one part of the program, of the whole program about deploying goals, right? So, and in order to do that, in order to deploy all the goals, for sure, you need to have a clear strategy, right? So you already mentioned that. So many companies that we have working on throughout the years, we see that they don't have clear strategy. They don't know where they are going. They don't know how to achieve that. So I think that the main challenge about doing this program, right? Doing the goal cascading is exactly understand where the company wants to go, because at the end, the main purpose of the goal cascading is to align everyone towards one direction, right? So for me, this will be the first challenge that the companies are facing. The second one will be clear roles and responsibilities in terms of everyone knows what they need to do, everyone knows their main role in the company, and so on. So when we're talking about deploying goals, what you're doing is you're assigning to someone a target in order to be achieved, right? So in order to do that, that person needs to have that clear, they need to have like clear means in terms of how to achieve that target that you are assigning to that, right, to them. So I think that this also connects with the organizational chart, right? Because if you have like a really complex organizational structure in the company, probably you're not going to have clear roles and responsibilities inside of the company, and you're going to have difficulty in assigning targets, specific targets to someone in the company. So I think that having this complexity of organizational structure in the company also adds like a challenge in order to do that. Okay. Another one that I can highlight would be communication. Okay. So as always, we see that communication is key in order to achieve something in a company, right? In order to make things happen in a company. So communication, it's key in order to have this completed in the time frame that you need to do, and so on. So this is something that we need to have a clear timeline. Who does what? For sure, we need to train everyone in the company in order to perform that. So this is not something that you can do in a company that it is like too big that no one has been trained. You need to have someone really driving this toward the company. So this is something important. So communication. And one thing that I would add at the end would be resources, right? So we need to have people available in order to perform all of that, right? We need to train everybody. We need to have like someone driving this in the company, and this is also difficult if we are talking about a company that has like a lower management maturity. Okay, so that would be my idea of main challenges.
Yeah, very interesting. So first, have a strategy, have clear roles and responsibilities, have a clear communication to the organization, and resources to make it happen, right?
Perfect.
Throughout my years of consulting and as Actio CEO, I've seen quite a few cases of misalignment from strategy and the actual KPIs that we see in the departments, right? Sometimes it's because the KPIs, they tend to be more long-term. They're focused on operational excellence, and they just keep rolling those KPIs and following up on them, and they don't really change or look at them with a different perspective, given the strategy may have changed, right? So this, I imagine, is one cause that may lead to this misalignment. Have you seen in the past many cases like this where you have the strategy, maybe like a strategy department, separate from a operational efficiency department, that don't talk and don't get their goals and get KPIs connected? How often do you see that happen?
So yeah, it happens a lot, especially in big multinational companies, okay? Because usually what we have is people in companies working in silos, right? So at the end, we need to have like specific direction that comes usually from the top leadership from the company, right? In order to give that direction and deploy this throughout the company. So yeah, so that's why I said that mainly communication is also key in order to have this message cross throughout the company, right?
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, let
communication
me.
is key, right? For everything. So if you have something that, like Guilherme was saying, you have two departments that are not talking to each other, they have a goal that one that depends on the other department. They should talk and they should align to promote this cross-functional communication to address these issues that they have.
Nice. Okay, Gustavo. Since you stepped in, I have I'll raise the bar for you with a harder question, right? One question is, what problems are there? The other one is how to solve them, right? How to ensure that the strategy execution is happening throughout the organization and it has, permeated the organization. How can you ensure that?
That's a tough question, Guilherme, but I'll tackle this. Well, I think that aligning strategy with execution is a major challenge for everybody, right? I think especially nowadays that all the companies have such dynamic environments that are changing every day. And without this alignment that they have, even the strategies, even the best ones could fail, right? So we don't want things to fail due to execution gaps that they have or lack of communication or other points that were discussed. And I think that some key factors for these alignments are, I think the first one is defining clear and measurable objectives, right? So I think that you and Piero probably know this better than me, but goals have to be smart. And whenever I say that goals are smart, that doesn't mean that they have to be like smart with like intelligence, but they have to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. Did I say that right, guys? I always forget the A. And by that you have to avoid vague statements. So you just can't create something like, oh, we want to increase our revenue. Of course, people want to increase revenue, but from what value to what value and within which time, right? Or by any percentage. We do have to have that, right? Otherwise, like it becomes a blank statement. Another thing that is a key factor for ensuring strategy and alignment, strategy with execution alignment, is to use a goal negotiation framework. So that requires balancing an organizational ambitions with the operational part a bit. So by that, you have to involve everyone, right? The managers and the employees, and setting goals that are gonna, ensure that the strategy is being executed correctly, even by the whole top-down structure. And by that, I'm just gonna briefly mention, this is not an ad, guys, but I just want to mention that score that Russo is gonna probably give us a quick demo later, that facilitates this discussion that we're gonna have. So that can allow for negotiations between leadership and teams to be done easier, right? And to have a single way for people to look at what is being discussed. So that is an important part. And I think that Piero has mentioned the communication point, which is, I think, is crucial for everything. But having this continuous communication and having this visible for everybody is very important. So we want this strategy to not be executed only once, right? We want to keep track of it during the whole year, for example. It's not a one-time thing for the year. It's the whole year. You have to execute your strategy during the whole time. And by that, I think that people should communicate this regularly, right? To ensure that this strategy is aligned with everybody during the whole time. So by doing that, there has to be some tracking mechanisms, like showing the dashboard, showing the values that you have, and showing that in real time, right? Because people can keep, how can I say that? People can keep track of it, and they can change things that need to be changed if there's something that needs to be changed. And I think that another point that I have here is to ensuring that this strategy execution alignment is the, well, do you have to have that it aligned within the company, right? So it's a top-down structure that it has to have it aligned. So something that comes from the bottom, right? What is being executed has to support the strategic objectives from the company. That is quite important, but within there's this vertical, right? The top down, but you have to have this horizontal alignment. Well, you have to ensure that different teams are working cohesively towards the same goal rather than at their own purposes, at least, right? They have to work together. I think these are the most important parts. And one last thing that I would consider is the incentivization in performance management, right? You have to, it depends on motivating people, right? You're not going to achieve your goals for your company if people are not motivated. So whoever is executing things has to see what are the goals that they're achieving, right? What are they being rewarded for if the goals are being achieved? I think these are, that could bridge the gap between strategy and execution again.
Yeah, there's one point you spoke that really drew my attention. That is to have a framework, right? I see many companies developing a strategy, communicating the strategy, putting a lot of effort in formulating the strategy and communicating the strategy, but hoping that people will align to it, right? Without
Yeah.
having a structured process to cascade that goal, to make the strategy go into the company as goals and projects to be executed. So this is a point that you mentioned that I think is really important to have a framework to cascade the goal, right? To have a step-by-step process with a timeline. When is it going to happen? Who has to do what to make this happen, right? And how it's going to happen. And have this process run throughout the company and not just, every manager has its own way, does its own way. And in that way, you will have managers that are more knowledgeable about how to do it. Others are less knowledgeable about how to do it, and these ones won't do it. So your strategy will be compromised, right? If only a part of the company does the cascading of goals and the other part does not, be it because it didn't have time or priority or didn't have the knowledge to do it, doesn't really matter. But if a strategy, if a part of it is not done, the whole will not work, right? So to have a structured process, a framework, as you put it, right, where the whole company follows that step by step as a company policy, as a company process, corporate process, right? And people know what the process is and execute the process, and someone is monitoring that process to make sure that the goal cascading is happening throughout the company. I think that's essential, an essential point that you mentioned. I just wanted to reinforce it to ensure that the strategy will actually cascade throughout the company, right?
Mm-hmm. Just one comment on that, Guilherme. It is key to have a clear framework, and more than that, it is key to not change it every year. So companies usually, if we change the leadership, or we change like a director that is pushing this program inside of the company, usually they try to put a new face in the program, and they change everything all over again. And so what I'm saying is, it is important to the companies to be consistent right? And really try to apply that framework, because it's not easy, right? But yeah, they need to be consistent and really push in order to have this completed, and not like changing every year with like completely different things. So yeah, they need to stick with it because it works, right? That's the point.
Yeah. It should be part of the organizational culture, right? And not something that, as you said, changes every year. It cannot be like the politicians that they come in and they want to do stuff different, right? It's something that you should reinforce year about over year, right?
Mhm.
And well, talking about politicians, one major issue that we see in governments that we kind of see reflected in business as well is having strategy or goals dissociated from the budget, right? So politicians promise a lot, but they need to have budget to or resources to make that happen, right? In businesses, I personally consider a distortion, but it's so common to see that I dare to say it's the standard in business to have the budget defined before you cascaded the goals. So you already have like what's the expected revenue, what's the expected expense, investment, and so on in the budget, maybe by September of the previous year, October of the previous year, and the cascading of goals happen December going into January, right? So if I am a manager in a company and I receive a challenge, right, a goal to be met that is better, I need to get into a better performance. I have to have a better performance than last year. I'm going to have to do something different, right? And to do something different, many times, more often than not, I will need resources to do that, right? So, Piero, how can we connect these two processes to ensure that the goal cascading will have the necessary resources to be able to be executed and still keep within what was defined and approved sometimes at the board level of the company for the budget?
Okay, that's a good question. So yeah, you said that it might be like counterintuitive, but usually, yeah, companies usually have the budget done before they define the strategy. But in the ideal world, right, we will have further strategy defined what we want to achieve, and then have the budget in order to support that, right, in order to drive towards that direction. So one thing that I could say is that let's try to have first the strategy, the mission, where we want to achieve, and then put some numbers on that. So another thing that Gustavo mentioned about defining goals and them to be smart goals, right? And not just like, I want to have that. So many times we are talking about with a director or a manager that is defining their goals, and they have like wishes, right? I want to have that. So, okay, I know that you want that, but how can we translate that wish that you have into numbers, right? And how can we call or involve the finance team together early in this discussion in order to have this already translated into a budget, right? Because at the end, we need to have the finance team involved as soon as possible, as soon as we are defining our strategy, to be everyone to be aligned, right? So another point, it is to tie all this budget into like specific goals. So if I'm deploying a goal with for a manager or for a supervisor or whatever, depends how deep I'm going to do the goal breakdown in the company. I need to also have the finance team together with me during this negotiation and discuss with the manager or with the person that I'm deploying the goal for, what is the specific requirements, right, in order to achieve that goal. So you mentioned that already. If I need to do that, if I need to increase my revenue, for example, or if I need to reduce my cost or whatever, I need to have, me as a manager, I need to have some resources in order to do that, right? And this needs already be embedded in the budget. So having the finance team together helps that discussion and helps in order to say that, yeah, it is feasible or it's not feasible to define that goal for that specific person, right? Another point, it is to have also a framework in order to do that. So a prioritization framework, right? So money is like a limited resource, right? So we don't have like infinite resources for everyone. So we need to prioritize what we need to develop or what we're gonna develop inside of the company. So in order to do that, we need to prioritize all the things that we want to achieve and what is gonna drive our strategy, right? So in order to also connect with the finance team, right? We need also to connect everything in terms of a negotiation, because at the end, it is a process that is top down, but all the goals needs to be negotiated, right? So in order to achieve that, the manager should ask something about that. Oh, I need this resource, or I need more people, I need a new system, or whatever, right? So what they need to achieve in order to also include this in the budget. And for sure, we need to track that later, right? It's not something that we can just come up this once a year and then just forget about it. We need to track if we are in line with what we have defined it as well. So yeah, that will be the main points.
Have you ever seen in this negotiation between, the resources necessary to execute the strategy and the budget that many times is already closed off, right? Have you ever seen the need to go back and revisit the budget because the strategy's not going to be executed within that budget? And how does that work at the governance level, right? How does that work? Because I imagine you have to take that all the way up to the board, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. It happens, and it happens a lot actually, because well, we were discussing about areas working in silos, right? And we can say the same thing about the finance team, right? They just, oh, this is like the budget time of the year, right? So they just lock themselves in the room and they just keep working on some numbers, right? Trying to define the numbers in order to sustain the strategy that is not defined yet. So, but okay. The point is, they have a number, right, at the end. But when we're going to talk with the managers or with the directors, they ask for something different. So sometimes it's just a location matter, right? Oh, I just need to move this budget from this area to another area. Then it's, let's say it's easier. But sometimes they need more than what they have in the budget. And yes, it needs to go all the way up. So we are talking about rework, right? We are talking about discussing something that it's already defined, but then you need to renegotiate that, because if it is for some reason not approved by the board, then you need to go back with those people and renegotiate their targets all over again. So we are talking about a rework inside of the company as well. So that's why it's important to have everyone aligned to reduce that kind of rework, right?
All right. That is a multilateral negotiation in the company, right? Top down and sideways with budget and resources, and not just money, but also people, right? negotiating with HR, which areas will need more headcounts or could reduce headcounts and so on, right? Okay, so talking about people as a resource, right? But we also, people are the ones that will make it happen, right? And so they must have their own interested or should have their own interest aligned with the strategy execution, right? And I've seen many companies, most companies have, bonus programs for the executives and all the way down to managers, usually. How to guarantee that these incentive programs are aligned with strategy execution, right? Because again, we fall into the silos, right? We have maybe a strategy department and we have HR that are, planning the incentives for the executives and for the managers. And many times these incentives, they don't change year by year, or they kind of are the same throughout, right? So Gustavo, I'd like to hear you out on this one. How can we, align the incentives for people with strategy execution and cascading of the goals or the goal negotiation, right?
Yeah, great question, Guilherme. From this perspective, I think that, well, incentivizing is crucial, right, for performance to be driven. So you have to keep people motivated, right? This is, I think, the main point, right? Keep people motivated, engaged in the process, showing them that what they're doing is actually changing the needle on whatever you're working on, the company. And, one thing that has to be done also is to promote fairness, right? I don't want, if you have peers that are working at the same thing, you want them to have the same level of incentivization or bonus or whatever you work with. But if their performance is the same, they should, at least keep things the same, right, between themselves. But I think that, incentivizing people goes through a lot of things. I think money is an important thing, right? Usually people are motivated by money, but, you have to have this aligned with thoughtful structuring, like the whole process, right? As Piero was saying, you have to have it aligned with the expectations of what people are going to perform on top of those KPIs, for example, that are being measured. And these incentives should be structured to reward performance rather than, things that are just a short spike, right? So if you have something that is done throughout the whole year, the performance is good, great, that's even better, right? You want to keep it as high as possible. But if you want something that is very low the whole year and then you have a huge spike at the end, something is wrong, right? So that is not a good way to incentivize people. I think that also another point is some people might not have monetary incentives, right? Some people, they want to be motivated with other stuff, like having a career progression, knowing what are the next steps for them to achieve in order for them to grow in the company. Having opportunities for training is an important part. And having public recognition is something also very important for some people. And that could drive long-term engagement for people, sometimes more than financial rewards. And, these employees, they need to see a clear path on how they can achieve that, right? Another thing that I think is important is to have the team-based incentives instead of individuals incentives. Sometimes, if you have something that is purely individual, that could create a competition inside a company. For example, I don't want someone else to work on this because I'm working on it. So let me get this as a benefit and the other person, whatever, leave them aside. You want people to work together towards the same goal. And I think having this balanced mix of individual and team-based rewards could engage this collaboration. And also, I think that aligning this with organizational, cultural, and values is crucial, right? You have to have incentives that are reinforcing the company's mission and values, right? Because everybody's working towards the same goal. So, for example, if let's say that innovation is a priority in the company, maybe rewarding problem solving could be as important as hitting a revenue target that you have, right? And this incentives, they should evolve as business priority change as well. So you have to have this being reviewed periodically to incentive effectiveness in this case, right?
Yeah.
I think these are crucial points.
Yeah, wow, it's a lot. It's a lot. You've mentioned, the bonus, the money, aligning expectation, career, planning, training, recognition. I think it's an important one. Teams, so people don't produce in a vacuum, right? They need a team. Culture. So there are so many variables that impact this incentive for people to align with the goal negotiation, with the strategy execution, right? But there's one particular aspect to it that is the more visible aspect to it that I'd like to ask a little bit deeper questions. That is the bonus, the money that people receive. So I understand that's just a part of the whole incentive package, but specifically on the bonus, I've seen quite a few companies focus on exclusive financial KPIs, like EBITDA, like profit or cash flow, and so on. So a very big focus on the immediate result. But the strategy will generate future results. It's designed for future results, not for the immediate result, right? It's designed to support a sustainable long-term result. So when companies focus exclusively on financials, they're looking at basically the past, not if you're building the future, right? On your experience, Gustavo, I know that you've been implemented and participated in a number of implementations of SCORE, right? The bonus management module and negotiation software in many companies. So you may have a very broad view of the market. How often do you see this? The incentives package, bonuses, are looking backwards, looking to what happened, that is measuring EBITDA, cash flow, but not measuring if they are aligned with the strategy and how are they meeting these targets in cash flow or EBITDA. It can be in a way that is not the strategy that was defined, right? So how often do you see this happen? They have a incentive program, a bonus program, but this bonus program is not necessarily aligned with strategy. It's more aligned with past performance.
I think that's quite often, Guilherme. Sometimes that from the times that I've seen that companies working with this, they usually look more towards their financial KPIs instead of the qualitative KPIs, right? Sometimes you have to look at how the satisfaction of the customer is working, right? How we are measuring this, because as you're saying, sometimes you have to look to the future, right? Sometimes you have to look to the future all the time because you want things to progress and you don't want things to be looking back. But I've seen that quite often, Guilherme, and I personally don't think that's a good strategy for companies. And I think that one thing that I forgot to mention was also, in this case, to incentivize people, having a continuous feedback program would also be a very good strategy. So you could keep track of why you're not achieving that KPI, why you're not working towards that goal. So I think that's something that I forgot to talk about.
All right, very, very interesting, guys. Well, I'd like to thank you both very much again for participating here. And now I'm gonna, but still stay with us because we have a questions and answers in the end here. I'll call in Jerusalem again for her to show us how can technology help this process. How can technology align, the strategy with the KPIs and negotiate these goals throughout the organization in a way that people are committed to the goals that were given to them, and they accept that goal as a possible challenging but possible result for the company, right? So, Jerusalem, to give you
Thank you.
the stage.
Thank you, Guilherme. So as you mentioned, I'll be showing you a demo of a software, how Actio can support the goal negotiation in a clear and collaborative way. So I'm going to start by showing you just like the big picture. What this is like a strategy map built around the framework of balanced scorecard. So you can see that the objectives are tied to the key perspectives of balanced scorecard, the financial, client, internal process, learning, and growth. And you can see that the objectives are color-coded, representing the performance. So the color highlights like what is on track, what's at risk, and where attention is needed. So this is not just a visualization, but it's an interactive. So you can see like what are the strategic initiatives, what are the risks, what are the KPIs related to these objectives. But for today, I'm not going to go deep into that. I'm going to go into showing you how we can set targets to our KPI first, and then how we can do the goal negotiation. So I'm logged in as Cecilia, who is a commercial head. So she has a KPI. So let's see what those are that she's responsible for in the commercial board. So there are like these few KPIs. So first I'm going to start by setting targets, taking the example of a sales conversion rate. So what I see here is the past performance, and this is our performance tracking chart. So the bar represents the actual, the line is the target, and the colors show us what has been achieved. The yellow represents what are like the underperformance, but something that we're close. And the red one is the targets that's been missed. Okay, this is my historical performance, but for 2025, I want to start to set the targets. 2024, my target was 90. For 2025, I'm going to add, let's say from last year, let's say we expect 95. So I'm going to keep on adding this. So I add my targets for every month. And this is going to help us track the performance. Every time I can come and add the actual value. So once I save this, I'm going to now go and start doing the goal negotiation. So what I see here in the goal negotiation is my position, the commercial head. Okay, I'm attached to it. And then there are like 3 steps. I can see that, but I don't know. So let me open this, add goals. All right, so this shows us the approval flow. So first, we see that the employee has to define the goals. Second, it's the manager that needs to review it. And finally, it's the HR. So this is not fixed. Anyone could adjust it in a way that works for the company. All right. And what I see is that this is for commercial head, and there are 2 KPIs that are linked to here. This one is just making sure to make the goal negotiation partial, because we can also set what are the KPIs that are not negotiable. Okay, the 50%, we've already said it, because you're a commercial head, these 2 KPIs are mandatory, but the 50%, it's negotiable. So I'm going to add my the KPI that I just added, the sales conversion rate, and I see the annual target that I just added, okay, 95. And also let me add another KPI here, and I can also set the weight. Okay, so this one could be 30 and this one could be 20. Save. I can save and submit this approval. So after I submit for this for approval, it's going to go to the manager, review my targets. Going to go to my manager. Okay, so let me see how it works. So I'm logged in as Guilherme, who is Cecilia's manager. So here in this step, I'm going to see that it is on the second step here. Okay, so the first step has been completed. It's the second one, which is the goal approval. All right, so I see what has been added. I can change the weight. I can also remove what she added and add another one. I could just say make this 50%, and then I'm going to make it renegotiate, which means that it's going to be sent back to the Cecilia to update her her goal. So she has to go and now review this and see if she agrees. I can include a comment here. I'm going to send this back to her. So so you can see that the goal that has been that Cecilia defined is now being sent back to her for negotiation. All right. So once that everyone is aligned and approved, the goal is going to be published. So let's see how that's going to look like. So we're going to see another example of a scorecard that has already been published. So in this case, you see that this is for Guilherme. Also, this is his targets. Okay, so once it is complete for Cecilia as well, she's going to have this kind of view where she'll be able to see the KPIs, like the weight, and then you can also track the performance. So so you see that this one is red. You can see what she has achieved for each target. So this is 0, this is 92. And if I hover on this, I'm going to see what is the rule that's defining this result. So you got 92 for this specific target because they achieved the scores between 45 and 50%. And so this gives us a great transparency. It helps the manager to see what is the target and what is the progress. All right, and to tie this all, we can also see what the what the bonus is. So I'm gonna go and show you a bonus screen by employees. Okay, so here I can see that for each person, what is that person's area, like the defined period, what is the score, and what is the bonus. Okay, so this ties it all together. So you can see that in the software that we can set the goal, do our negotiation, do our bonus calculation in one place in an integrated platform. So I'll stop my presentation here. If you're interested in knowing more about the software, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to do a more detailed session. So for now, we'll go to the Q&A section. I'll open the Slido. Let's see what questions that are there. So I'll direct the question to our panelists. First question, how do you think the way we agree on goal and what we offer as reward has changed over the years? What really motivates people?
Okay. Can I start with that?
Yes, you can start.
Okay. So I know that I had a big project about this one, and we've seen some changes, especially when we are talking about after the pandemic, after COVID, it has changed a little bit. So people are more focused on work-life balance than before. You know, especially this working from home, being able to stay more time with their family, and even taking their kids to the school and something like that. So this is something that it's becoming more and more important, right? But if we rank all this, money is still the first. Okay, it is still the first one. It's still what motivates more people if we're talking about in like a rank, right? But it has been reducing the importance of that when we compare with other stuff. Okay, so we are seeing a lot of companies with this new policy of going back to the office, right? Working from the office. And we are seeing that a lot of people, they just resign, right? They don't want to go back to the office. So because they are working from home, they have their family, they can take care of their children and so on. So at the end, what we see is that, yes, money is still important, but other things are becoming more and more important, right? And also it depends the culture that we are talking about. If it is like here in the US, it's one thing, right? The rank, it's one thing. In Europe, it's another thing. So it depends also where are you looking at.
Yeah. Another point that has changed throughout time is the incorporation of technology to the process, right? So it's been quite a change. I've been doing this for, I don't know, more than 20 years now. And in the beginning, it was a very manual, like it was Excel based, and the negotiation had to be done face by face. So you'd have to sit, directors and managers and their teams, C-level with directors, negotiating face by face the goals. And this manual process made that you couldn't take the goals all the way to operational level because it was just impractical. It was just too many people. The process would just take too long, right? With technology, we've been seeing this cascading go down a few levels, right? It doesn't stop at the directors or vice presidents or even managers. It can go as low as you wish in the company. So we have clients that participate, that have like 5,000 people participating actively in the goal negotiation process, in the cascading process of the company. That means they go like way down to the supervision level, coordinators, right? So this was enabled by technology, by softwares that support the process and help streamline the process and streamline the communication and the notifications and so on. So that's one big change that I've seen also.
Okay. Thank you both for your elaborated answer. So next question, is there an automatic way of combining goal results for measurement of main objective?
I can take that one. Yes, there is. I think your guys are asking using the software, right? So yes, you could do that. You can link the KPIs, for example, that are with the goals toward the where they're summing or towards the objective that is being achieved. Yeah, you could do that by creating formulas and different types of consolidation.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I understood the question perfectly, but I'll try to answer as well as I've understood. Is there an automatic way of combining goal results for measurement of main objectives? That is there a way for the KPIs that will cascade automatically? There are AI tools within our own software that help you, that proposes KPIs to meet objectives, right? So if you have an objective, you have KPIs, the software can propose some KPIs to measure if that objective is being met or not, right? But it's not quite automatic. It's a help. It still needs a professional to choose between the KPIs that are being proposed by the artificial intelligence, which ones makes more sense for that particular industry, for that particular strategy. So there are tools that help, but it's not like a full automatic cascading for the company, right?
Okay, thank you. Last question. What techniques can managers use to resolve conflicts when teams have competing priorities?
Negotiation, I'd say. Sitting down, understanding the availability of the resource to execute, so what capabilities and resources you have, and understanding what are the priorities of each of the objectives or goals. And sometimes you have to drop a few, right? If you don't have the resources enough to do all of them, right?
Okay. Well, that would be the end of our Q&A session. Thank you everyone for joining our session. It was a pleasure having you all. Hope you find the session helpful. So we'll be sending you a certificate if you're interested, and also we'll be sending you the recording of this webinar via email. Thank you. And as I said earlier, if you're interested in getting to know more about our software, please write us. We'll also have a link in the chat, so you feel free to book a session. Thank you very much, and you have a good day.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you,
guys.
Bye bye.